This is Leaders Elevating Leaders, bringing you the power of possibility by learning from successful leaders across Northeast Florida. We're breaking down barriers, overcoming fears, and stepping out of our comfort zones to be inspired and change our mindset from it's complicated to it's possible. I'm your host, Angela Timberlake, talent development executive, executive coach, business owner, and now the Vice President of Elevate Women with Jax USA Partnership, the Economic Development Division of the Jacksonville Chamber. And our mission is to elevate women to the highest level of leadership across Northeast Florida. When we do, we become a destination where top talent can thrive, which means our business, our economy, and our community thrive. Now, let's hear how it's possible for you. All right. Welcome. I am Angela Timberlake. I am the Vice President of Elevate Women with Jax USA, a division of the Jacksonville Chamber. And this is our Leaders Elevating Leaders series. And I'm honored to be joined with this well-known, well-respected leader in local business and our community, Betzy Santiago. Betsy is currently the Business Solutions Strategist at Florida State College at Jacksonville. She is known around the community for connecting people. She's owned her own business. She's worked for government, for nonprofit, both small, large businesses in several different industries across our community. She's a Leadership Jacksonville alumni. She was recognized as the Professional Minority Women of 2019 by the Jacksonville Chamber. She's past president of First Coast Hispanic Chamber and former board member of Girls on the Run. I know she's on several other boards that she can share with us in just a few minutes. She is an exceptional connector and loves to match people with opportunities. And she's a conduit for growth in our community. And if you don't know Betsy yet, you will want to after this. So Betsy, welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's always so humbling to hear somebody tell your own story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You deserve it and have earned every minute of it.
Thanks.
Now, when we first met, we connected quickly and I understood immediately how you are a connector and how you've been so successful. So for those of you that don't know her, I want to give her an opportunity to for her to share a little bit more about her and her journey.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been an interesting ride, definitely. When I think my first meeting that I can go back to and think about, I was supporting my then spouse at a chamber function, actually. And I think I shared this with you, Angela. I was so shy and so scared of everybody that I literally stood behind him. I mean, I didn't know how to talk to anybody. I didn't know what I was doing. And through the years, I got involved with the board at the Hispanic. I started volunteering first, then got involved with the board at the chamber. And ultimately, I became president of this Hispanic chamber. And through that process, it just opened up a world of opportunities. And so I just, my biggest takeaway from all of that is get involved, volunteer, share your opinion, even if and sometimes it's even easier when it's in a small group, because then you start to build your confidence, and over time, you'd be amazed at where you're going to find yourself. So for me, it's all about building people, building communities, building opportunities for the economic development. And so I'm just really, really proud and honored to be here with you today.
Thank you. It's such an amazing story. So tell us what you're doing now. I know you have, we'll talk about where you've been, but tell us what you're doing now.
So right now I'm actually working for FSCJ, as you said. And so my job is really about solving problems all day long, right? So tell me where you've got retention issues. Tell me where it's all about developing opportunities as well. So, and how do you connect with the resources? One of the things I always say about FSCJ is that I wish when I was working at the mayor's office or some of my other roles that I would have known that there's so many resources right here in our community. So a lot of it is doing exactly what I'm doing now, is speaking at different events. I do a lot of media contacts, a lot of community involvement, a lot of volunteering. Just how do I connect my community back to the services and the products that are available at FSCJ?
That's great. It's refreshing to know that the college has put so much effort and resources into that because it's definitely needed across the community. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Now, what would you say? You talked a little bit about the things that you've overcome. What would you say are the critical skills that really have helped you to succeed?
So critical skills, I think for me is really about just never stop learning, right? That's the number one. That's the key. And it's interesting how my career path has really led to that, right? I had no idea that each job, each step was actually preparing me for the next one and opening up opportunities as well. So really, I would say never stop learning. So during COVID, I had to, like, when this first happened, I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to keep myself such an extrovert to be, alone and at home and not with people, right? So one of the things that I did was I took this class with Harvard on the science of happiness. And one of the things that they teach you is this WHOOP method, right? Which is it's wish, outcome, obstacles, and plan. And so this is actually something that I have incorporated into my own life. Kind of a silly example, but it works. I determined that my wish was that I wanted to get healthy again and maybe be even, maybe almost competition ready by January, by my next birthday, right? So what were the outcomes that I was looking for? Was that competition? What were the obstacles and what was hindering me? Well, I have a lot of injuries from previous sports events and things like that. And so how was I going to get there without hurting myself? So what was the plan was to find a trainer, a personal trainer who has been working with me. And here's the funny thing about this. That's a personal example. And it's just something for me to share that's relatable. But the truth of the matter is that has actually helped me profoundly in business because my confidence is higher. I wake up, I'm alert, I'm awake. I've got this energy that I've never had before. I've got this positivity every morning. My routine is to get up and be grateful for, have that meditation moment, be grateful, and then go hit the gym. So it's just setting the day in a very intentional way, and it's really changed my life. So I would say education.
Love it. That's fantastic. And just curiosity, what kind of competition?
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably not going to happen because I'm not quite that bold. But yes, I was thinking kind of along the lines of like weight training and things like bodybuilding. Yeah.
Good. Well, we'll check in with you and see how you're doing.
We'll see.
So one of the things that so many women find is a miss and a challenge because we don't raise our hands quite often enough to have mentors. How important were mentors in your success?
Let's just say critical, right? Completely necessary. I have really been very fortunate that I've had so many people in my life who have really kind of walked with me along the way, and they've opened up opportunities for me for different. Actually, we didn't talk about this, but part of my list of accomplishments, if you will, is the fact that I've been able to participate in so many great programs here in Jacksonville. So many different leadership programs, everything from Political Leadership Institute to that the Chamber actually did a few years ago to the Northeast Florida Regional Leadership Academy. I mean, there's just been so many of them, right? And I can go on and on, but these mentors really were the ones that A, either introduced me to them, or B, they sponsored me to be able to take them. C, they encouraged me. I think one of the biggest takeaway for me is the fact that a lot of times they believed in me even when I didn't, right? And so that's so important that we have those people in our lives who can really help to promote us and guide us, tell us when we're doing something going in the wrong direction, and just get us to that next point. Right now for me, I still have all of my mentors, but I also have coaches. So that's the other half of this, right? So I have my personal trainer that we talked about. I have a business coach that's been working with me on just honing in some of my skill sets and that sort of thing. And actually just for fun, and where all of this confidence, if you will, started was actually with a dance instructor. I thought it'd be fun to take some dance lessons. And that opened up the door to just all kinds of possibilities. So mentors, coaches, anybody who is willing to walk with you is huge, 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 huge part of my life. I wouldn't be where I am without my friends and the people that have really helped me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what would you say if you think about some things that surprised you? What are maybe some blind spots that you've had that you weren't prepared for, that you had to overcome?
Yeah, so this one is actually a really interesting question for me because it really hits home. You know, when I was working for the mayor's office, I was the first Hispanic female to work for that office. It's not something that I say very often because ultimately it was actually almost a burden for me, right? Because it was this huge weight and this huge responsibility for me to do that. But during that time, I was attending 25 to 30 events, speaking at most of those, you know, I mean, it was like every day we were out there. In 4 years that we served, I had over 4,000 contacts in my Outlook, in my contact list. I mean, it was just, we were meeting people all over the place. And, you know, the biggest thing, the biggest blind spot that hit me was that when it was over, everybody disappeared, right? So all of a sudden, I wasn't getting the invitation to go to the event anymore. Somebody else was speaking at the event that I had spoken at before. And so things just kind of changed for me. And so I realized at that point that it wasn't necessary. And it's not that they didn't like me anymore. It's just that they needed the position, they needed the role. It wasn't personal. And so that was, I think walking away from that experience was a huge realization that all these people I thought were my friends were really business acquaintances, right? They were, and again, be flattered by that, because to know that I was a resource to them is huge. And even to this day, I've kind of come back, and so I'm still doing that even now with the college. But it was such a huge realization that things had changed, and that, you know, now it was the office that they were looking for, not necessarily the person. And so for me, it was a lesson to really put people in categories of how do we prioritize them, and really start thinking, going back to that mentorship, right? I still have my mentors, the ones that are helping me. I have the people that are walking with me and that are my everyday people. And then I have the mentees that I'm trying to help as well. So never forget that, but understand that sometimes it's the position and the title, not necessarily the person in the seat, that is what they need.
Yeah, that's really well said, because I think a lot of people do take it personal, right? And so I think once you
It was
realize,
hard.
yeah, right? Yeah, especially for us females, because we want to be liked,
We
right? And so
did.
we take a big hit when we have to, sit in that seat and say, okay, it's the role, right? It's that role, and sort of flip that mindset. So well
Yeah.
done.
Well, that was a mentor that pointed that out to me, because I was very offended. It was funny. Yeah. So we learn, we live and learn, right?
It's all right. It's all learning, as you said.
Absolutely.
Now, is there anything, looking back, is there anything that you would do different?
You know what? That's a really great question. And for me, I would say absolutely not. You know, because your journey is your journey. And like I said before, each step kind of prepared me for the next one. And even when I thought that it was a position I didn't want, or something that I felt I can do better than this, there was a skill set, there was a person, there was some reason why I was there, and it was necessary for my journey. So I would say from that perspective, absolutely not. Now, if I had to change one thing and go back, what I would say is start sooner, right? On my financial journey. So as women, I think we don't do that, right? And so there's Dave Ramsey does a Financial Peace University, and I love what he says. Live, how was his quote? Live differently today so that tomorrow you can live differently. Live a different life today so that tomorrow you can live a different life. And so it's really about, how do you learn to invest early? What do you invest in? What do you prepare yourself with, so that at the end, when it's time for retirement, you're going to be able to live the life that you wanted to, because you invested earlier in your life. So that would be the only thing that I would probably change a little bit more, and be more, have done it sooner. than I have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given the space that we're in today and the pandemic, how are you handling the pressures of your job, your civic duties, and your home? How are you handling all that?
I love this question. So a couple of years ago, the Indo-US Chamber asked me to do a talk on work-life balance. And the truth is, I laughed because I was exactly the perfect example of what not to do in that scenario, right? I mean, my life was completely out of order. And the funny thing about it is that at the end of the day, especially as a Hispanic woman, you know, our culture teaches us that we're supposed to be the caretakers, we're the matriarchs, we're the ones that are, but somehow we're also supposed to be, you know, the ones that are at the corporate table and fighting for that seat. And so how do you really balance that? And I think the truth is that that's a lie. There is no balance. When you say yes to one thing, that means you're saying no to something else. And so that's really the truth of the matter. And for me, how I have challenged, what I have done for COVID is really to look deep inside of myself and really think, okay, what are my priorities? Where do I want my life to be a year from now? What do I want to focus on? And forget about COVID, forget about this weird environment that we're in. What's it going to take to get me there? And so, you know, I think part of it is really just about being that intentional and focused on what it is that you want to achieve, and you'll get there. You'll get there. And you know, I think one of the other things that I learned during this pandemic is that 5-5-5 rule. If it doesn't matter in 5 days, in 5 months, or 5 years, then it really isn't that important, right? So surround yourself with the positivity, the good people in your life, the people that are going to draw you, that are going to motivate you. And ultimately, that's really what I've been very intentional in doing, is being very focused on where do I want to be a year from now.
That's great. Yeah, I love the what you say yes to. You're saying no to something else. That's a lesson I think everybody has to really realize, because we want to say yes to everything, right? And we just can't do it all. We just can't. So I love being focused and being intentional. Like, what is that important that you have to get done, and focus on that?
My goodness, I know. We're so easily distracted, aren't we?
Yeah. Or we get pulled into, 50 other things in our day.
There's that as well.
Yeah.
So there's that piece.
There's
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
I think the other thing that I've heard from other people is, being focused and being intentional, but also being flexible, right? Because you can really get in a tailspin if you are so intentional and you do get pulled into something else. It's hard to recover if you're so focused. So
I love that. See,
there, I think, I think there is a little bit of balance, be focused, but flexible.
Sure. I love it. I love it.
So we all have fears, right? We all have things that prevent us from raising our hand and saying, yes, put me in. So what's one fear that you've been able to manage overcome?
I think for me, it was the fear of risk taking, right? So we talked a little bit about my beginnings, and, I was very conservative and very shy. So at one point I had to kind of come out of my shell and not be so afraid to take that next step, right? So part of my job was working at the Emergency Operations Center, and one of the captains or chiefs, he said to me, Betsy, in the EOC, you have to learn to trust your instincts. And the more you do, the more correct you will be, right? So because of that, and through that lesson that he taught me that day, it's something that I have actually implemented in my own life, right? And so you manage it and you calculate your risk and you kind of observe, but sometimes you just have to take the plunge. You just got to jump and do it and see what happens. One of the things that I say a lot is, I'll figure it out, right? Because ultimately we'll figure it out. So I would say definitely just learn to trust your instincts and go with it.
I love it. Yeah, we're very resistant to just figuring it out.
Yes, we are.
So
We are. But it opens up amazing opportunities when you do. I took a risk coming to FSCJ. Let's be honest, right? Like, I'd never worked in academia before. This was a department that was restructuring. There was a lot of change going on. I didn't know anybody at the college. I mean, this was a huge deal for me. But at the end of the day, it's given me a platform and an opportunity to really help my corporate community and help individuals that otherwise may not have ever connected to this college. So, every risk, there's a reward.
it's possible.
It is possible.
So I'd love to hear that, because here locally, I think we are industry bound, and we have a fear of breaking outside of the path that we've been on. So I love to hear that you took a risk and you're enjoying it and finding some success in that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think every path in my journey has been a risk, right? They've all been, you said a little bit about my background, and each job has been so different. It's different industries, it's different types of industries, different size of companies that I've worked for. But it's given me such an amazing opportunity to meet all kinds of different people, be educated in all kinds of certifications and degrees and whatever that industry has to offer. But more than that, it's really just been a great learning opportunity to be diversified in my perspectives and in how I view and filter the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned it a little bit about being the only. So in the conversations that are happening today, and companies are really trying to find their way around this. So what's the advice, and one thing that you can, one advice from your perspective as being the only before, how can companies or executives embrace leadership diversity?
I love that question. And, my journey has really been kind of working with those multicultural communities, international guests. When I was with the mayor's office, I was the international officer for the city. I did protocol for the mayor. So it was my job to host inbound delegations from all over the world, mayors and consuls and all kinds of different people, right? And then I went to Lutheran Social Services, and I'm working with refugees. And, even part of the mayor's office, we're working with the lower social economic communities and trying to open up opportunities. But it's just been one after the other, working with Global Jacks and, just all of these different agencies that had to do with multicultural. And for me, I didn't realize that this is something that was implanted in me since birth. I remember even as a kid having all these strange people staying with us from all over the world. I don't know why, but it has brought so much joy and pleasure into my life, because from each community, you're able to pick out the best of them, right? So the best practices, what does this community do better than this community? And let's pick those pieces out. One thing that I really love about my multicultural communities is the fact that they have so much grit, right? I don't know how else to say it other than grit. They are there. They will do whatever it takes. They teach you that at the end of the day, there's this power in this community that they form, right? And we should learn from that. How do we support each other? How do we help each other? They have tenacity. They're the ones that are going to get it done no matter what, right? And so I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. I think also that one of the things that I'm really, really proud of with the mayor's office was the fact that we left that administration understanding diversity from more than just a race or a gender, right? It's also age. Make sure that you've got all the different ages represented. Make sure that you have all the different industries represented. Make sure that, maybe it's able-bodied versus somebody with some form of disability. But make sure that you're really listening to each voice, because ultimately we just did a webinar on leveling the playing field for the deaf community at FSCJ. Our professor is phenomenal, but it was something that was really unique, because during COVID, when you cover your face, how do you read lips, right? You can't. So it's understanding that there's opportunities even in that. In her presentation, part of what she talked about was the fact that there's this deaf ecosystem. As a business owner, that's an entire new market that if you just caption what you're putting out there, the content that you're putting out there, you've now made it accessible to a brand new customer base. So there's opportunities in each and every one of those communities. And I would say, look for them. Be inclusive, embrace the differences, and try to figure out where the best practices, what they're doing better than we are.
Great. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my sweet spot right there. I will tell you.
I know. I felt like we could talk on that for the rest of the time, for sure. Well, I want to switch to a little bit of the fun stuff. I think it's always helpful for, since we're talking about it's possible, it's always fun to know a little bit more about you personally. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. Okay. What job, other than your current one, obviously, did you enjoy most?
Mayor's office.
Okay. What job did you like least?
When I first started admin work. I'm so bad at it. And I love my administrative assistants when I have one.
Yeah, it's a special skill. I know, right?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Other than your current profession, which one would you absolutely love to do?
You know, I think it'd be fun to do professional speaking and to facilitate on a regular platform, I guess. I don't know. It'd be fun.
Cool. And what would you absolutely not want to do? What's the worst?
Oh my God, just put me in an office and isolate me. Anything that puts me in an office and isolates me, I can't. I have to be moving around.
Okay. What's your favorite word or phrase?
I'll figure it out. Right?
Nice.
That's probably the one that comes to mind first. I'll figure it out.
And then what makes you cringe when you hear it? You're just like, oh no.
Oh my God, the word no, or I can't. I mean, can you please at least try first?
Yeah, I hear it. Yep. What's your favorite thing to do to escape?
Oh, that's an easy one. So anything outdoors. So beach, bike trail, gym, just put me on a trail, whatever. Just get me outside.
And then what is your least favorite thing that you get roped into that you're like, why did I say yes to this?
Oh my God. I have actually had the opportunity to work with people that didn't want to work with me, that were not motivated. And that is my least favorite thing in the world. If you're not motivated, I can't motivate you. You know, at some point you've got to do it for yourself.
Yep. And then where will we find you across town if you had, a few hours or a whole day to spend? Where will we find you?
Yeah, those same places I listed before, right? The beach, the gym, probably the beach, a hiking trail, somewhere outside. Jacksonville is such a neat place because during COVID, that's actually what I've done a lot of. And I have discovered incredible parks in our city and incredibly beautiful neighborhoods as well. I mean, I used to call a friend and say, hey, let's go for a walk in your neighborhood, just because I wanted to see that part of town, right?
Yeah.
So, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I can agree with my two little boys. We found every playground across town so far. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been amazing. Now I want you to be able to leave with, one piece of advice. What would you share with the next Betsy? What's one piece of advice that you would give them?
You know what? I would say never give up, right? Really pursue what your passion is. Discover where your heart really lies, what wakes you up in the morning. At the end of the day, sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to motivate yourself, but it's worth it, right? Develop the skills that you need to accomplish the goals that you want to set for yourself. And really, at the end of, I think one of the things that has changed for me during COVID as well is that I've really kind of gotten away from goal setting and been more intentional setting, right? So I know where I want to be next year. How I get there is less important. If I just keep focusing on where I want to be, somehow you kind of just figure things out and things kind of fall into place. The right people come into your life, the right opportunities. I don't know. It's maybe, it's about waking up and having that plan of where you're going to be. But really it's You know, seek the mentors, seek the people that are going to help you, but don't give up. Don't give up. You know, it's at the end of the day, you know, get out of your comfort zone and do something different. Take those risks that we talked about, and really just, you'll figure it out when you are no longer afraid. All limits are off, all bets are off. So you become invincible and you become limitless. That would be my last statement. Be fearless so that you can become limitless.
Oh, I love it. We might have to steal that quote from you. That's perfect. Well, thank you again. I look forward to, you know, our continued partnership, and I'm excited to see you continue to bring such wealth and growth opportunities to our community. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for the work that you're doing. This is really important. And I hope that everybody who watches this understands this is a really impactful project that you're working on. And I am just so honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. We're excited. Well, thank you everyone for joining Leaders Elevating Leaders. I am thankful for all of you that tuned in. I believe we've all seen the power of possibility today. We've even gotten some new some new quotes that we can share. So stay tuned for our next guest. Until then, believe in yourself, believe it's possible, and continue to elevate and inspire those around you. When we do, it elevates us all.
Love it.
Thank you.